Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. I'm Michelle.
And for those of you that are new here, welcome to our channel. My name is Jessie, and we are Moms on Crime. In this channel, we talk about true crime and everything paranormal. So today, Michelle is going to tell us a story. So what are we talking about today, Mama?
Today, I have a true crime story about a serial killer. It's unsolved, so if you pay close attention to this, just listen to the details because it's unsolved, and when you hear the details about it, it's going to upset you like it upset me, and I hope so badly that this case gets solved. Before I start, I want to just please remind everybody to go ahead and subscribe now if you haven't already done so, and that way you can hang out with us every time that we upload. So today I'm going to tell you the story, Mama, about the Freeway Phantom in the DC area. So this happened in the early 70s, and the DC area was terrorized for 17 months. 6 girls ended up murdered, and it has remained unsolved to this day. So almost, what is that, 50 years almost?
Yeah.
So the first story I'll tell you about, the first victim, is Carol Spinks. She was 13 years old. She lived with her mom and her siblings, and she had an older sibling that lived across the hallway from them in their apartment complex. So their mom was really strict with them, but I mean, growing up back then in the 80s, you remember how our parents were, they left us home alone and stuff, but we knew not to leave or, you know, do what we weren't supposed to do. But Carol's sister was older and lived across the hall, and she needed some groceries. So she offered the kids, her other siblings, she said, hey, if you guys go to the store for me and get these things that I need, you can buy yourself a soda. So Carol was like, oh yeah, I want to do it. I'll take it. So Carol took the money. She went to go walk up the street to like a little corner store that was up the road. And on her way there, her mom actually passed by her and saw her and kind of told her like, man, you know you weren't supposed to leave, so when you get back home, you're in trouble. So they do know that Carol did make it to the store. The clerk in the store remembers seeing her and remembers the items that she bought, but she never made it back home. This was April 25th, 1971, so she never made it back home. And her body was discovered 6 days later, and it actually wasn't far from her home. It was behind a hospital where men that were returning from war would go with like PTSD, but back then in the early 70s, they didn't recognize it as PTSD. They kind of saw it more as like mental illness. So she was found behind this hospital off of I-295, which is like a major freeway in the DC area. They could tell she had been strangled and sexually assaulted, and she had defensive wounds on her body. Her shoes were missing, but based on her stomach contents, they knew that she had been kept alive for several days. She hadn't been dead for 6 days when they found her body. And on her clothing, they found these green synthetic fibers. So police were pretty confident that she had been held for several days before she was murdered and left on the side of the highway. And a little bit of time went by, a couple of months, and the summer of 1971, Darlenia Denise Johnson, she worked at a rec center, and she left her job. So she didn't show up for work one day. It was July 9th, 1971. So based off her not showing up for work, her friends and family knew right away that something was wrong. And 2 witnesses have reported seeing Darlenia. One said she was with her boyfriend, and the other said she was riding with an older black male in an older vehicle. But neither of those leads led anywhere. And 11 days later, she was found badly decomposed due to heat and humidity. She was only found 15 feet away from where Carol's body was found on the side of I-295. The cause of death could not be determined because she was so badly decomposed. The third victim, her name is Brenda Fay Crockett. So she's going to be the youngest of all of the victims. She disappeared July 27th of 1971. She had gone to a grocery store for her mom to buy a couple of items that her mom needed. And, you know, growing back then in the 80s and 70s, my sisters grew up in the 70s, there was nothing for our parents to send us to the store to go buy stuff, you know, like times were
Yeah.
different back then. We walked to the store by ourselves, so this wasn't out of the ordinary for her to go to the store for her mom. But
Right.
she didn't make it back home. Now for Brenda, this one, the items that she had purchased at the store were found strewn about on the floor outside of the grocery store on the concrete. So they could tell by that one that she did fight back, like she fought the abduction. The other two women, there was just no trace of them disappearing. So for Brenda, hers is very odd. This story is odd because a couple of hours after she disappeared, the family was out looking for her, and one of her younger sisters was home. Brenda called the house and spoke with her younger sister, and she told her younger sister that a white man had kidnapped her, but he was going to let her take a cab back home. But she was upset on the phone, and she just kind of kept repeating the same thing. And then after some time, she called back again, but this time her stepdad had come back home he was out searching. He came back home to see if maybe there was any phone calls about her. And he answered the phone this time, and she just kept saying that a white man had taken her, but he was going to send her home in a cab. And she asked a strange question. She asked her stepdad if her mom had seen her. And he was how does that make sense? Like, you're saying that she said on the phone that the white man had drove her up to Virginia, but was going to send her home in a cab. So she asked her stepdad, did my mom see me? And he was like, what are you talking about? That makes no sense. And then she said, okay, well, I'll see you. And she hung up the phone, but of course she never made it back home. And this is so sad. 8 hours after she disappeared, they found her body. She hadn't been deceased very long when they found her. And she had also been sexually assaulted and strangled. And there was also synthetic fibers found on her body as well. But unlike the first two women, their shoes were missing, but she is believed to have left the house without shoes at all. But what police noticed was that her feet were very clean, like they had been washed before her body was left where they found her off of a major road, like the other two women. But they knew based off of her feet that she hadn't been walking around outside without shoes on. The fourth victim, her name is Moshia Yates. So she went to also a local grocery store for her mother, October 1st, 1971, and she was also found within hours of disappearing. Her body was actually still warm to the touch.
Wow.
She had been sexually assaulted and strangled, and again, they found green synthetic fibers on her remains. And at this time, was finding her body, this is when they named this serial killer the Freeway Phantom, based off where they were finding the bodies off of major highways in the D.C. area. The fifth victim is Brenda Denise Woodard. She was the oldest victim of the Freeway Phantom. She was 18 years old. She had just graduated high school. She had actually hung out with one of her friends. They went out to dinner. So the night of November 15th, he last saw her getting on a bus, and he went his separate way to get on a different bus. And her body was discovered within 6 hours off of the Route 202 in the DC area. She had also been sexually assaulted and strangled, but she had also been stabbed, unlike the other women. And there was a note written by her. It was her handwriting. Her mother identified it as her handwriting, and they actually had it a handwriting analysis done. They could tell it was from her. And I guess off of the handwriting analysis, they can tell if you're in duress when you're writing something. And it appeared that she wasn't in complete distress when she was writing this note. So they feel like maybe she knew the suspect, because maybe when he first asked her to start writing it, she wasn't alarmed by it or taken back. Maybe.
What did the note say?
This note is very odd. It kind of rambles on about, it's kind of just like about hate for women. I'll put up a picture of it. It's kind of starts off about maybe not being listened to, or having a lot of anger, and a lot of anger towards women. And that's more towards the end of the note. It's only a couple sentences, and it's kind of taunting the police, like, catch me if you can catch me. And then he had her sign it the Freeway Phantom. So it was obvious that he was paying attention to the news media because he knew that they had dubbed him the Freeway Phantom. So this note was found in her pocket. The sixth victim is Diane Denise Williams. She was 17 years old and she was a junior in high school. She had gone out with her boyfriend on the night of September 5th, 1972, and he also walked her to a bus stop around 11:20 p.m., and that was the last time anybody saw her alive. And her body was discovered by a trucker several hours later off of I-295. Unlike the other victims, Denise's shoes were found, but they were with her name written on the bottom. And she had also been strangled. But the thing that really upset me about this case, and I'll go back to it, one of the victims, it was Darlenia. I believe it was Darlenia. It was Brenda's body. It irritates me so bad. Okay, so a man's car had broken down off of I-295, and he had to walk to a gas station to call for help, right? It's early 70s, it's 1971, there's no cell phone. So he's walking through the grassy area off the freeway and he found the body. He saw the body, he called for help, he went to a gas station, he called 911. Police officers drove by the scene and they radioed in that there was nothing to see there. They never even got out of the car to look in the grass. A week later, the same guy was thinking like, hey, I wonder if, they went out there and I wonder what happened with the body. Dude, he went back out there and her body was still in the grass. She was still out there. Yeah, so he called for help again, and this time police returned. They just left her. So police returned, and that time they found her. So obviously that's why she was so badly decomposed, because she was left out there for almost 2 weeks.
Right.
And it turns out he wasn't the only one to call 911 about the body in the grass. Other people had called 911 about the body in the grass, and nothing was done. So it just bothers me. And the reason why this case was never solved is, okay, so in the early 70s, President Richard Nixon, you remember the Watergate scandal? So once they had realized that they had a serial killer on their hands, they dubbed him the Freeway Phantom. They brought in the FBI, and a lot of different task forces were working on this case. It was sex crimes, it was homicide, and I guess there was some area, like issues with gangs starting off, so the gang units were involved. However, when the Watergate scandal happened, for some reason, FBI, DC area police thought it was better to pull the FBI off of a serial killer case where he's killing young Black girls and put them on the Watergate scandal. Okay, don't get me wrong. Wow. A president involved in a scandal is, okay, it's something, right? It's something major. But in my heart, I don't feel that a presidential scandal is more important than young Black girls getting killed and their bodies dumped like they're garbage when there's little girls, they're sisters, they're daughters, that they deserve better than that. And when I read that, I was like, that like shook me in my heart, that they felt like pulling everybody off to go concentrate on a president was more important than these little girls getting murdered.
Right.
So, yeah, so the case died down and there was no more murders. But I was reading where there's a few other serial killers that were named that ended up in states nearby, and it's a possibility that he moved from the DC area and he went to another state and continued to murder. Yeah. Because after 1972, there's no more murders attributed to the Freeway Phantom. And over time, due to files being transferred back and forth, they're saying between the DC area police and different task force and the FBI, there was a semen sample on Diane's body that they lost, and there was also hair samples on another body that have been lost. So at this point in time, now with all this DNA technology we have, even if they open this case again and look at it, they lost it. They lost the majority of the case files related to this serial killer. Yeah. But they did have some suspects. I can't, well, when I was reading that, I just, you know, reading that, I can't help but think that they didn't focus on it more because of the area of DC they were in and the race of those poor little girls.
Yeah, and this was back in the 70s, so it's, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, seeing how things are today, I can't even say it's very much different, right?
That's true.
Six little girls were murdered. 6 girls were murdered and left, dumped on the side of the road like garbage. And you feel it's more important to investigate a president. Something's wrong. Something's very wrong there, and I don't like it.
And kind of like those cops too that didn't find the body. Like
they
you
just
had like multiple reports.
There was a missing girl. There was a missing girl in the area, and you just drove by. You never even got out of the police car. You radioed in that there was nothing to see there. You didn't take the time to park the car and walk up in the grass and go look where where the man that called 911 said the body was. You didn't even try.
Exactly.
You left that little girl out there in the sun, just, you know, her mom's at home not knowing where her daughter is, and you just left her out there like she was garbage. And that pisses me off. That really pisses me off. And just knowing now that they lost the majority of the case files, and this will probably never be solved. Never. They don't have the DNA. They actually tried to say that the semen they found was from her boyfriend, and he was adamant, telling the police, like, no, we did not have sex that night. That's not mine. And it's gone. It's gone. There was hairs found, and they're gone.
If they didn't lose those stuff with the technology that we have nowadays, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, they could totally.
Yeah.
DNA evidence, and just like the case we were talking about last week with the familial DNA, or the week before that, they could do that. They could do that now. And even if this man is dead now, because it's almost 50 years later, he would probably be in his 70s, 80s, or older. Well, it doesn't matter. At least her family would know who did it, because in the majority of the abductions, they feel like maybe the girls knew who this guy was, because they're only one girl dropped her groceries and they were scattered. So obviously one he grabbed with force, but the other ones, it was like they just vanished. So it's more than likely that they knew who this guy was. They felt safe enough to go with him. And the one girl on the phone saying if her mom saw her, they believe that he had her ask that question because he might have so her mom, just think about
somebody
that.
From the neighborhood or something.
Yes. So just think about that. Her mom probably was right there. They were probably in a car passing by her mom or something, and he thought that her mom saw them together.
Yeah.
And the girl that had the note.
So sad.
The girl with the note in her pocket, they said it didn't look like she was under duress when she wrote it. So she probably knew this person. She probably knew maybe he was illiterate. Maybe it was a common known thing. So when he asked her to write a note for him, maybe she didn't think it was out of the ordinary. You know what I mean? And a lot of the girls didn't have defensive wounds on them. They had been strangled, but it kind of leads to maybe the girls felt very comfortable with this guy.
They knew the guy.
And then I was reading something really interesting. It was saying that, so I guess serial killers don't typically kill outside of their race. And I didn't know that.
Oh, really?
I guess if it's a white serial killer, he'll mostly kill white women. And if it's a black serial killer, he'll mostly kill black or Hispanic women. So all of these girls were black. So they think when the girl on the phone was saying a white man kidnapped her, that he probably just had her say that to kind of throw off the police, you know, like a ruse. They feel highly that this was a black male that was the suspect.
Yeah.
Because
and when she would, like you said, when she was asking, like, oh, did mom see me or something? Oh my gosh, imagine like they were there and the mom just passed by or something.
Probably. So he probably was like, he probably was right there, like, ask if they saw us. Ask your mom if she saw you.
Yeah. Because if they question the mom and she'll be like, oh yeah, you saw her in a car with so and so.
Yeah.
Because they knew.
pisses me off. It pisses, oh God. But they did look into, there was an area, like a gang of rapists in the area. They were called the Green Vega Rapists. They looked into them, into members of this gang, but they couldn't find anything. They couldn't get enough evidence to say that it was linked to these guys, because
there's a gang of rapists.
Yeah, they were working in the DC area, but I guess their MO was not anything like this, like what was happening with these girls. And they also looked into two other guys named Edward Sullivan and Tommy Simmons. They were actually two ex-cops, and they were arrested for the murder of Angela Denise Barnes. She was 14. And at one point, they thought she was a victim of the Freeway Phantom, but it turned out that she wasn't. These two guys had kidnapped her and raped her and murdered her. And they also looked into another guy named Robert Askins in March of 1977. He actually was arrested, charged with abducting and raping a 24-year-old woman in the Washington, D.C. area. They looked at him pretty hard for this. He actually kidnapped and raped a few women, but they ended up not being able to link him. The one thing that they thought was odd, in the note, the word tantamount is used, and I've never heard that word. I don't know what that word means.
What is it?
Tantamount? I don't know what that word means, but it was written in the note that was found inside the girl's coat pocket. So this guy, Robert Askins, he had used that word before in another note that they found written by him, but they served search warrants. They looked into him very hard, and they just could not link him with these murders. So almost 50 years after it started, it is still unsolved. But if anybody has information, whatever you think you have, nothing is ever too small. No tip is ever too small to call in. You can even call the local Crime Stoppers in your area and tell them if you think you know something about this, because that's 6 little girls whose murders have never been solved. Never. So
that is so sad. Oh, I'm just Googling right now. Tantamount, it means equivalent in seriousness to, or virtually the same as.
That's weird, right? Okay, so the note he wrote, it said, "This is tantamount to my insensitivity to people, especially women. I will admit the others when you catch me if you can. Freeway Phantom." And he also had her write really weird. Like, some of the letters are uppercase, some are lowercase. I'll put a picture of it, but
yeah,
it's just sad.
I mean, if he's still alive, he's probably like super duper old.
Yeah,
already, but then again, it's never too late, because look at the Golden State Killer. Yeah. How old is he? Like 70, 80? Yeah.
I think, yeah.
But I mean, his victims and the families, they felt like they have closure now. I mean, it's not going to bring back their family member, but at the same, I mean, it helps. So I'm pretty sure, like, for these victims,
their families deserve to know what happened to them. Their moms deserve to know, and their sisters and brothers. Everybody deserves to know what happened. So
bad.
That is the terrible story of the Freeway Phantom. If you guys enjoyed this story, and I mean, it's hard to enjoy, but please go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so.
And don't forget to comment down below and let us know what you guys think. And don't forget to hit that post notification bell so that every time we upload, you guys will be notified. And also, if you guys want to follow us, we do have Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Momsoncrime. And also email us at momsoncrime@gmail.com. And we will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.